Coming up on Network Africa. Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed makes first visit to Sudan since war began. United Nations force in the Democratic Republic of Congo extremely concerned about the expansion of M23 rebels. Plus, Liberian President Joseph Boakai cuts his salary by 40%. Hello everyone, welcome to the program. I'm Joke Rogers here in Lagos. We begin in South Sudan, where there are 2 million internally displaced persons who represent the world's fourth most neglected displacement crisis. The protection of civilians displacement site in Jonglei hosts about 2,300 people. Most of them have been displaced for about 11 years. The vulnerable groups, including women, children, and the elderly, and of course persons with disabilities, have limited access to healthcare and face heightened risks of illness and mortality.
Elizabeth Joseph has been living in a tent in a camp for internally displaced people since 2018 with her children.
The children don't get enough food. They might steal or beg to survive. 35 people have died due to the dire situation. Drugs and health services are also not available. Amid this situation, we don't know what to do.
Most people in the camp collect firewood and charcoal and sell it to make a living due to hunger and deprivation. Many children left school and are exposed to negative coping mechanisms.
Sanitation, I cut firewood and sell in the market to provide for my children, but there is the risk of being attacked and killed by armed men. Secondly, the floods are approaching. The camp is located in an area without a drainage system to absorb rainwater. The sanitation situation is also not good, and the rains will worsen it.
The number of people facing catastrophic conditions, IPC 5, the highest level, in parts of Jonglei State in South Sudan is projected to almost double through July, rising to 79,000 people compared to 35,000 at the same time last year.
The situations in the camp is really very, very dire. So the humanitarian partners, together with the government, they are now looking into options where to relocate those people to a permanent place. Then this is where now we humanitarian will be able to support them fully so that to integrate them into the community. The main problem why partners have limited problem to provide assistance in the site is because of limited funding.
Overall, more than 7 million people in the country face food insecurity, an increase of more than 20% compared to 2023 at mid-year. South Sudan also grapples with a severe health crisis affecting 8.9 million people, primarily in flood and conflict-affected regions with population movements and disease outbreaks. The nation's health system, heavily reliant on international aid, faces staffing and resource shortages.
We don't have enough drug. It's place where we admit our patient. We have only one ward. So when it is malaria season like this, it becomes so congested. Right now it is going to be malaria season. It's now started. But no anti-malaria now. If you can go in our pharmacy, there is no drug completely.
Additionally, South Sudan is bracing for the worst floods in 60 years in the second half of 2024. To respond to this, the humanitarian community aims to provide life-saving assistance to some 2.4 million of the 3.3 million people projected to be affected by flooding in northern, northeastern, and central parts of the country starting in September.
Now we head to Sudan, where the Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has met with the head of Sudanese Armed Forces, Abdel Fattah al-Burhan. His visit comes amid continued fighting across the country. The Prime Minister is the first foreign leader to visit General al-Burhan in his war capital of Port Sudan since the start of the conflict between the army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, the RSF. Mr. Abiy, who was previously seen as closer to the RSF than the army, hosted its leader, Mohamed Hamdan Dagalo, in Addis Ababa in December, framed the visit as part of a push to bring stability to Sudan after nearly 15 months of conflict. Created famine-like conditions in parts of the country and threatened to destabilize the region. In the meantime, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, UN Children's Fund and the UN World Food Programme are reiterating warning of rapid deterioration in conditions for the people of Sudan, particularly children, as food security is torn apart by the war that has ravaged the country for more than a year. Collectively, the agencies have mobilized a large-scale humanitarian response inside Sudan and in neighboring countries where more than 2 million people have sought safety. The agencies say an immediate ceasefire and renewed international efforts, both diplomatic and financial, as well as unhindered and sustained humanitarian access, are urgently needed to enable the humanitarian response to be further expanded. And joining us now is Sheila Pony, VOA reporter in Juba, South Sudan. Warm welcome to you.
Thank you so much.
Right, what more can you tell us about Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's visit to Sudan?
The Ethiopian Prime Minister's visit, or rather recent visit to Sudan, is aimed to address several key issues between the neighboring countries. And one of the many topics of discussion was the Grand Ethiopian Resilient Dam, a project that has been a point of contention in the region. And Ahmed also assured Sudan that the dam would not harm its interests and emphasize its potential benefits as a regulating seasonal floods and providing electricity to Sudan. Besides that, another significant aspect of the visit was the ongoing border demarcation issue. So the border between Ethiopia and Sudan, drawn during colonial times, has never been clearly marked by these two countries, so leading to disputes and tensions. And the Prime Minister has highlighted the need to consult historical documents and engage in dialogue to resolve these disputes. And also the chairman of Sudan's Sovereignty Council, Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, expressed support for this approach, emphasizing the importance of technical committees and dialogue in the demarcation for the approach, and in way for them to look for another process in order to get to solve the border dispute issues. In addition to these discussions, Abiy's visit included meeting with key Sudanese officials, including the head of the Sovereignty Council and other high-ranking government representatives, including the head of the Sovereignty for the visit. Besides that, they also underscored Ethiopia's commitment to strengthening ties with its neighboring and addressing regional challenges through diplomatic means. That's what I can tell you about his visit to Sudan.
Right, and the Ethiopian Prime Minister, Sheila, is being touted to perhaps have closer ties with the RSF itself. With this visit now, what kind of message, does he seem to be passing now that he has, made a visit to the country and, is meeting different groups?
Well, the visit to Sudan appears to be a significant step towards fostering a dialogue and easing tension between the two neighboring countries, the two warring parties in Sudan. And during his visit, Ahmed engaged with various Sudanese leaders, expressing solidarity and empathy with the people of Sudan. So he engaged with those leaders, and also his visit comes amidst the ongoing conflict between the Sudanese Armed Forces, SAF, and the Rapid Support Forces, RSF, which has caused widespread instability and humanitarian crisis in the region. So Abiy's discussion included bilateral relations and regional issues of mutual concern. Notably, he emphasized the importance of resolving differences through dialogue, discussions, in order to see that the fighting between these two parties could stop.
Right, that's a great expectation. So what of the situation on ground now that you mentioned that? Has the fighting intensified or has it reduced?
Well, the situation remains there as we speak, because the fighting is continuing. There is intense fighting continuing between the Sudanese Armed Forces and the Rapid Forces. The conflict has caused severe humanitarian crisis, with millions displaced, and this widespread food insecurity affecting around 18 billion people. For instance, in northern Darfur, like, people are facing ethnic violence, exacerbating the situation. The international communities, including the UN, has called for a ceasefire to evaluate the civilians, to evacuate the civilians suffering, and also prevent more of the harm to the citizens in those areas as we speak.
And, how are the people coping? You mentioned the warning about food insecurity. The UN, too, is really concerned about the situation. The displaced people in those camps and those seeking refuge elsewhere, how are they coping with the situation?
Well, looking at how they are coping with the situation, I can tell you that it's not really a good life. It's very bad. People are living in the open. There is no assistance that is coming in. Those who want to probably get out of the situation or the area are not able to get out. Children are getting malnourished. They're hungry. There is no water to drink. There is no food. There is no medicine. It's a life that a human being shouldn't be living. It's what I can say, considering the past 2 months that I have witnessed with the returnees from Sudan, besides also the refugees crossing to other countries, like, for instance, to South Sudan, where in the borders coming from Sudan, coming to South Sudan, another country that is also having food insecurity situations. Health conditions are very poor, and these people are coming with the hope of getting to a better place. But then again, you're coming just to another their situation. So I can say that it's really a very sad life.
Yeah, the VOA's reporter reporting from Juba, South Sudan, Sheila Pony. Thank you for your time today.
I appreciate it. Thank you too for hosting me.
And still to come on the program, a storytelling event in Morocco and its week-long festival. More of that and others in a moment. Please stay with us. Welcome back. The head of the UN force in the Democratic Republic of Congo says the humanitarian truce is in effect in the eastern region of the country, but the situation remains alarming given the rebels' territorial gains. Updating the Security Council on her mandated activities, Bintu Keita, who is also the head of the UN Stabilization Mission in the DRC, MONUSCO, expressed grave concerns about the situation. She also highlighted the humanitarian catastrophe.
The security situation in eastern DRC has continued to deteriorate, reaching alarming levels of violence and civilian displacement. I am extremely concerned about the rapid expansion of the Mouvement du 23 Mars M23 in North Kivu and the spillover in South Kivu, despite numerous operations conducted by the FRDC, regularly supported by MONUSCO and SAMI DRC. The DRC today counts 7.3 million displaced people, including 6.9 million in the eastern provinces alone. International humanitarian law violations are impeding humanitarian aid delivery. The growing proximity of the front lines and the presence of weapons, including heavy artillery, within and around displacement camps and spontaneous sites significantly compromise the security of the displaced and resident population. What is sadly more is that gender-based violence does not stop to increase. For the whole year of 23, 122,960 cases of gender-based violence were reported, marking a 3% increase from 22.
I wish to conclude by expressing once again Rwanda's support for regional initiatives, especially the Nairobi and Rwanda peace processes. Rwanda strongly appeals to the international community to support these regional efforts, which focus on political solutions, including the need for political dialogue, and the need to permanently address the issues of the FDLR by disarming, demobilizing, and repatriating them to Rwanda.
Liberia's President Joseph Boakai has announced that he will slash his salary by 40%. His office said he hoped to set a precedent for responsible governance and demonstrate solidarity with Liberians. Government salaries have been under intense scrutiny recently as Liberians complained about the rising cost of living. Mr. Boakai had revealed in February that his annual salary was $13,400, but the cut will bring it down to $8,000. And the Rwandan government says it's aware of the UK's intention to halt its plan to deport asylum seekers to the East African country. In a statement released on Monday, late on Monday, the Rwandan government spokesperson's office said the deal was initiated by the UK to address the irregular immigration crisis affecting the UK, a problem that concerns the UK and not Rwanda. It's the first time Rwandan authorities have officially commented on plans by Britain's new Labour government to cancel the programme, which is being criticised by human rights watchdogs and others as cruel. It's unclear whether Rwandan authorities are responding to press reports or have been officially informed of plans to terminate the agreement. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer said at his first press conference on Saturday that the Rwanda deportation plan was dead and buried before it even started. The Rwanda deportation plan was presented as a solution that will deter migrants from risking their lives on a journey that could end with them being deported to East Africa. And now South Africa's Ministry of Energy and Electricity has identified energy poverty as a significant challenge for consumers struggling with the high costs resulting from tariff increases. This issue arises as Eskom recently celebrated 100 consecutive days without load shedding. The Electricity and Energy Minister says municipalities across the country still owe the utility just over $4 million. It's believed that the debts could double by 2050, where we could see Eskom owed over $165 million. Our South Africa correspondent Innocent Samosa reports.
It's been more than 100 days without power cuts in South Africa. Briefing the media on the country's distribution and generation performance, Electricity and Energy Minister Kgosientsho Ramokgopa says the ministry has identified another problem.
So today I stand before you with a new crisis that has emerged. So there's a new front that is opened. And in fact, I had cautioned about this front some time ago in my previous responsibility as the head of investment and infrastructure in the presidency. And that front essentially has manifested. So what is this new front? So we are having a situation where there are many parts of the country, there are many households that are experiencing situations from one day to the other where they don't have electricity. There are hours in the day where they don't have electricity. There's little to no investment that has been made in the replenishing, maintenance, the upkeep and the protection and modernization of this infrastructure. And as a result of that, municipalities are under severe strain. And as a result of this severe strain, they then initiate what they call load reduction.
The minister stated that the country's current performance is not due to burning diesel.
This year, we have burned 6 billion rands less of diesel compared to the previous year. So I think it's important that we have that appreciation. Like I said, we'll continue to share with the general public. There's nothing about diesel that is anchoring the kind of performance that we are seeing now.
The minister says the nuclear question and procurement will be transparent to all. Citizens had this to say.
I'm feeling quite excited. You know, it really shows that the current government, I think, which is the 7th administration, they've kept up to their promises, you know, to say they will deal with load shedding. And yeah, really, I think it's happy that it really shows. But I'm happy. I mean, SMEs are back now. Things are working. Obviously, there's other issues, you know, that are stemming, for example, tariffs increases, you know, with NESA and ESCOM. Those are other issues, but I think for now we're quite happy. I'm happy. You know?
Yes, I'm feeling good because I can manage to do my stuff. There's people who are going to school and they can manage to study as well. So I feel good because there's no load shedding.
100 days without load shedding in South Africa, a welcomed development from many people on the streets of Johannesburg. The Minister of Energy and Electricity, Hoshienchu Ramakgopa, hailed workers at ESCOM for their dedication and keeping the lights on. From Johannesburg, South Africa, Innocent Samosa, Channels Television News.
Hey, Nigeria, the Lagos state government has asked residents to register under the state health insurance scheme called Ilera Eco to reduce out-of-pocket expenses. The permanent secretary of the State Health Management Agency, Dr. Emanuela Zemba, disclosed this at the Folari Koka Staff Clinic, Alausa Ikeja, during the partnership ceremony between LASHMA and the Lagos State Residents Registration Agency in order to achieve universal health care coverage in the state. Dr. Zamba says over 1 million residents have enrolled into this scheme to enjoy quality and efficient health care services.
Our partnership with LASRA, therefore, is the beginning of another journey which we expect to increase our enrollment, our awareness, registration, enrollment drive, and utilization of healthcare services covered by Ilera Eco. As anyone who registers under LASRA will also be able to register on Ilera Eco if such resident has not registered it before. We have also made our premium payment very flexible with the introduction of our Ilera Eco installmental payment known as Ilera Eco Pay Small Small. This is to accommodate residents who cannot pay the premium at once, especially those in the informal sector. They can pay monthly, quarterly, or biannually. In spite of all these efforts, and many more not mentioned, we are of the opinion that we still need to intensify our efforts to ensure that most Lagos residents enroll on the scheme in order for the state government to attain universal health coverage. Let me add here that the Lagos State Health Scheme Law of 2015 makes health insurance coverage mandatory for all residents in every state. Similarly, the National Health in our states. Similarly, the National Health Insurance Authority Act of 2022 makes enrollment of all Nigerians mandatory on the social health insurance scheme operating in their state of residence. This means that health insurance coverage is now mandatory for all residents in any state.
The primary aim for its creation is to have a reliable database of all residents in Lagos State. The agency will provide for a reliable database for identifying and validating residents' records while addressing key challenges facing e-governance and other initiatives by providing a more accurate picture for policy, planning, and resource allocation for the overall development of the state. The card is a one-stop ID that functions across platforms. It offers the benefits of ease of payment, financial inclusion opportunities, and means of identification. The validity of this card is also for 5 years and has robust security features.
Finally, on the program, the Storytelling Festival in Morocco, a gathering of talented performers who've the ability of intriguing the audience with their captivating stories, has ended. Musicians and street artists from more than 30 countries were drawn to a week-long festival, creating opportunities for other talents to shine. Approximately 150 artists entertained audiences at the 21st Storytelling Festival, which concluded on Monday in Rabat. According to organizers, the International Storytelling Festival is a meeting place for storytellers from around the world, despite their different backgrounds, religions, languages, or ethnicities. While the main highlight is storytelling, attendees also experienced puppet shows, pantomime performances, and live music by bands hailing from different parts of the world. That's Network Africa today. Thank you for watching. I'm Joke Rogers.